Welcome back. Welcome in. It's Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com, a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casaza here on a Thursday morning with you to preview West Virginia's football game coming up on the road, 6 p.m. Saturday against Kansas. Big 12 opener for both teams. To help me fill in the blanks, Chris Anderson. Chris, 3 bye weeks for Kansas. One down, two to go. West Virginia still a couple weeks from a bye week. I think people would generally like to have 2 bye weeks instead of one. Three, even better. Because now you can do what Kansas has done. They played their non-conference. They've gotten a bye. Had the emotional rivalry game that didn't go their way, but time to step back, reassess, and then prepare for conference play. West Virginia, I think, has a good spot for their one bye in the middle of the season, in between game 6 and 7, but then after game 11, which is probably not the best. I guess my point being that if there's an advantage here, Kansas at home, rest advantage, seems like that goes in favor of the Jayhawks. And perhaps that's why the point spread is, I believe, 27.5 points.
Might be close.
Yeah.
But were you setting me up, Mike? Was this an alley oop here? Because I told you I wanted to had a little something for bye week for you.
Perhaps we've done this over 700 times. I was looking at, I believe this is 711 on our
Really?
podcast.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of those we've done by ourselves, but hundreds of these together. But I think I speak your language a little bit. We probably looked at some of the same stuff when it comes to bye weeks, rest advantages, and all that. So maybe we should just get right into that. We've talked plenty about the pick game. I think we're all well aware of how much better off the Mountaineers are for winning that game than losing it and having to go to Kansas now. And I think saying that this is the first conference game in the new stadium or the refurbished stadium sounds good. I'm not sure what that really means, just because this will be their third game in their refurbished park. It really is like a new park if you've seen it. It's nothing like it was. I don't know. And Kansas is coming back after a loss. I don't know where the scales really tilt here. So you just kind of look at the obvious stuff, which is who has a break and who's had more rest to get things right.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, the
not sure.
bye.
I'm not sure who you'd rather be, to be honest. Would you rather the team that lost a game and then had a week off, or rather the team that won a game and feels pretty good about itself right now?
Well, this might answer your question, Mike.
All right.
Uh, Lance Leipold has been at Kansas since 2021. I think we can agree he took over a pretty crummy situation there. Um, would you say we give him a year zero in 2021? Can we give him a year zero? Good, good. I'm glad you agree.
Speaking of, we know each other. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to give him a year zero in 2021 because partly because that situation was so bad, that team was so bad. I think they went 2-10, and also because it kind of screws up my stat here otherwise. But since then, Kansas under Lance Leipold in the game after a bye, after an open week, 2022, an upset win over number 18 Oklahoma State. 2023, an upset win over number 6 Oklahoma. 2024, open week number 1, a win over number 17 Iowa State. Open week number 2, a 28-point shellacking of Houston. Those are the last 4 games for Lance Leipold in Kansas after open weeks. Now, 4 games, small sample size, but that's 4 games over the course of 3 seasons. Maybe it means something. Maybe, Lance Leipold knows how to handle this extra time and instruct his staff and instruct his players and get that extra research in to give them advantage. So I don't know if Vegas took that into account, but that was one of the first things that popped out to me because I do remember them coming off a bye and beating Oklahoma 2 years ago. And then I was like, well, have they done that again? And there you go. You just go see, beating 3 top 25 teams coming off bye weeks.
Dig in a little bit more because the ghosts of 2022 are probably fresh in your mind. I sometimes, when it's a rainy day and I need to feel better, I go back and I listen to that preview podcast 3 years ago, Chris, because we nailed it. We watched that. I mean, we talked about it, but I watched the game they played the week before, and all of a sudden they're running just a little bit of option, like triple option stuff, and using a lot of motion, and then they just kind of stick it back in their pocket because they just house an FCS team. You're thinking, man, you really got to watch out for all the motion and some of the option elements and look into option and passing. And what happened? Just torch Jordan Leslie's defense with those very elements. Is that an open week? It kind of is. You don't have to do a lot. You're actually getting out and kind of scrimmaging, but you're not showing anything and you're working on it. So they have all season to do something Running out in the FCS, they have all offseason to do something. They're running out against the FCS team. Good enough, sharpen it, polish this, pocket the rest of it. And then they put it on display in week 2 against West Virginia. They win in overtime by 13 points, by the way. Fun trivia. But you certainly saw like the birth and the evolution, maybe the genesis of Kansas's offense as it looks and shares a lot of similarities now because despite some offensive coordinator changes in the past, somebody who is not from the Leipold tree, they have a Leipold guy in there now. Chris, they have all offseason this year. They run up a ton of yards and points against Fresno State, which looks like it might be a pretty good year. At least it's defensively inclined. Get their FCS game, don't have to do a whole lot, win easy. They had a lot of offense and a lot of points and yards against Missouri. They just lost the game because of some other things we can get into. And now they're off this week. I think you're right to be a little bit concerned. And the numbers on Leipold, even if you want to count year zero, Chris, he's 5-2 coming off a bye, 11-3 when his team has more rest. And most of those wins are when the team is coming to Kansas. Bowl game is some other times involved there too, but those are big numbers. The counter, Chris, Rich Rodriguez, we're going to give him a year zero at Jacksonville State just because where I could find these numbers, it's kind of hard to account for an FCS team. They just don't catalog those. 5-1 coming off an open week, 4-1 when his team is at a rest disadvantage. So when his team actually has less rest in 2 seasons at Jacksonville State, he was 4-1. And again, oh yeah, that's Conference USA competition. It's Conference USA roster he's working with too. So does he know something about working with that shorthanded nature there too? So that's I mean a lot of this coaching matchup, head coach, offense and defensive matchups is really interesting here. But how they put their teams in position, given the hand they're dealt, loss, rivalry game, time off versus pretty physical game, got some momentum, but you still had some questions. Can you navigate everything to get to the starting line and then really get in the race? I think there's going to be a lot of offense and a lot of points in this one.
Well, you mentioned the offense. Does that mean you would like to start with Kansas's offense against West Virginia's defense, or other way around?
Let's do it because Jalen Daniels entering his sophomore year, Chris. So he somehow has 3 years of eligibility to go, counting this season. So
Year 8 of sophomore.
yeah, so he's been around. He's played a lot of football. He's been high. He's been low. I'm not really ever sure that he's been bad. Just last year, I think a lot of people would tell you that he was not all the way back from his injury, and I don't know, make up for lost time. Didn't have the best parts around him. Tried to do too much. Just threw a lot of interceptions last year. That's not that far from a 9-win team, Chris. And they got hot at the end of the year when he started to play better, and they were able to put some good stuff around him. This year, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Still putting the ball in danger sometimes. It's more of a one-man gang though than it has been before. Like they're just not running the ball very well in general, and if you take him away, it's really not as threatening. And then one of their receivers, not 100% their head coach said, so certainly some question marks about their offense coming into this.
Yeah, well, I have one that I don't know if it's good or bad or whatever. And in general, speaking of this team, and that is, what is Kansas's pace of play? I pulled this stat from, let me give them credit here, teamrankings.com, and they do the college football team seconds per play. Essentially, how many seconds does it take before you snap the football? No surprise, West Virginia, number 2 in the country, coming in just under 20 seconds per play.
Crazy.
Kansas is all the way down in 98th, which it doesn't tell the whole story. Because first off, they played, they blew out Fresno State. They blew out their FCS opponent. And in those 2 games, both at home, they were averaging 33.7 seconds per play, which would rank, I think, 131st out of 136 teams, something in that range. But in the game against Missouri, now it's a little different. Obviously, it's a tougher opponent. It's on the road. For the second half of the game, they were behind. They weren't behind the whole game. They were actually winning for the first half. I think the entire first half, maybe. That number drops down to 22.6 seconds per play, which would be top 10 in the country. So again, you have to kind of remember those factors of them being behind a little bit in the second half, trying to hurry up in the second half. But what team is this? Is this a team that wants to go slow? Is this a team that wants to go fast? Is this a game where both teams could be scoring quickly and or hurrying up and punting, and each getting in, 70, 80, 90 play, like just something crazy? Or are we going to have contrasting styles here, and Kansas is going to be trying to slow it down while West Virginia's trying to speed it up?
Yeah, so these numbers are really interesting if you look at them. Both games, their first 2 games, they had about 33 minutes. And even the FCS game, I think you can probably say, all right, they're still trying to get to what they want to do. They're trying to be who they are or who they want to be. So both games about 33 minutes. They had the ball for 19 minutes against Missouri. They had 21 points in the first quarter. One of that is on a scoop and score on defense, so that's not even a drive on offense. And then 0, 3, and 7 the final three quarters. 31 yards rushing, 223 yards passing. So you're talking about 254 yards of offense. Um, Man, that's not going to do it. So they're going to have to be prudent. If they're going to pick their pace and go, then they really better be good about it because I'm not saying West Virginia's offense is a short thing, but I think if you get Zach Allen and that defense in a lather, they're going to start coming downhill at you and start to feel a little bit better and start to do a few more things. And if they start to add points to that, it's 3-0, it's 10-0, it's 13-0, whatever. And that defense starts to look like it has 12 guys out there too. And here's the big question to me: like if they're going to be somewhat one dimensional running the ball, 19 carries, 31 yards against an SEC team in a pretty competitive game. It ends up plus 11, but it was close, especially with Missouri coming back from a 21-6 deficit. If that's your running output and you're throwing 30 passes with Daniels, I'm not sure how comfortable you are throwing 30 passes with Daniels, especially if you're having to drop back against the pass rush. Can West Virginia take away the run? That seems to me where it begins. And I don't know where their run defense is. Didn't look great against Ohio U. The numbers are good against Pittsburgh, but no Desmond Reed in that game, and their other running backs didn't seem like they trusted, especially when they needed yardage. That's the unknown for me. Can they take away the run, or can they limit the damage that they're going to do? They're probably going to get chunks because they are deceptive. They use a lot of motion and just kind of quirky things like just two guys moving and all of a sudden the quarterback's running, or they'll run a counter or a sweep or something. They're good at that. If you watch Kansas, it's exactly what you're accustomed to. But can West Virginia be disciplined or just stop their run?
Yeah, you want to talk about a team. It's weird because again, just like we were talking about with um the pace of play, how there's some contrasting numbers, some figures. Which one is it? Same with the rushing because you look at some of their overall stats. Their total rushing, their average, they're kind of mid tier, middle of the country, 60th, 70th, somewhere in that range. Then you look at their expected points added per rush, their EPA per rush, number two in the country. Like
Yeah.
how? What? And one of the reasons how is because they're consistent. They don't allow tackles for loss. Right now, like they're not getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. They are at least getting to the line of scrimmage, at least getting something. So they are tied for 19th in the country in tackles for loss allowed per game, which also includes sacks, which again, this is college football, so you got to include sacks because that counts as rushing numbers. But they also are the worst in the Big 12 in they have the worst, which means they have the least number of 10 plus yard runs by their running backs so far this season per game. They're tied with UCF for the worst in the Big 12. So they're not getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. They're not getting more than 10 yards. They're just pretty consistently getting 3, 4, 5 yards, whatever it is. And I think that's what gives the discrepancy of a mid kind of rushing team with a high EPA per rush statistic.
Leading carries is Daniel Highshaw. He's been a nice complementary player for the past couple of years. Devin Neal is going to get a lot of carries and a lot of yardage, so everybody's probably going to be complimentary to him. But here's his first lead role position: 33 carries, 169 yards. That's 5 a carry, but that's 3 games. Chris, their number 2 and number 3 rushers are their 2 quarterbacks, and they don't play 2 quarterbacks. So Daniel's 21 for 90 and a touchdown. Not scrambling too much, but a lot of that is designed, been sacked a couple times. And then their backup quarterback has 7 carries for 52 yards. That is as much as their backup running back has, 9 carries, 52 yards. So haven't had a ton of plays with their first team in the past 2 games because didn't have the ball much against Missouri and played the FCS game. I think if you look at their Fresno State game, and again, that's where having the open week comes in handy a little bit. You don't know as much, and you're not sure what to do. I just think there's 3 games out on them right now, and they're not going to be too different. There'll be something new or different, but should they produce the same results that they did against Missouri or against Fresno State? I'm sure they want to be more like Fresno State, but WV is going to have something to say about that, which kind of leads me to this. Like, what do you? I guess we don't know, which is the part of the answer to the question, but you've seen just a whole bunch of iterations of Zach Alley's defense here. This just kind of feels like they're going to have second level players running through. And I don't know if that means they're going to go with the smallish Braden Siders defensive line. Do they need more Hammond Russell and or Nate Gabriel in this game? Is Vesteranen a functioning nose guard against an offense like this? Their offensive line has been pretty well rated, it seems like so far, but the numbers are the numbers. So curious what they'll do. I can't see a whole lot of 3 high safety here. I don't think they're going to run the pit defense against Kansas, but We don't really know either. That's kind of like I said, that's the fun in answering this question.
Looking at it in some of the numbers that I see from Kansas's offense, if I feel like I have an idea of what could work, if assuming these some of the statistics and stuff that we have is accurate, the ratings that we have are accurate, scouting grades and such. Um, Jalen Daniels when he throws the ball, 30 of 35 for 374 yards and 8 touchdowns to 0 interceptions when throwing the ball to the middle of the field between the hash marks. That's pretty darn good. 30 of 35 with 8 TDs, 0 interceptions. Much worse, 24 of 40 with 1 TD and 2 picks going outside the numbers. So if I'm the defensive coordinator, I'm thinking to myself, I am kind of inside outing this defense. I'm funneling things. Well, I guess I'm not funneling them in. I'm funneling them out, trying to force them to make their throws out, make their runs out as well, because Highshaw likes to run middle right, just off of right center, just off of right guard. That's been a staple of this Lance Leipold offense, is trying to run in between the guards, kind of run up the middle, spread them out, run up the middle, the old Dana Holgerson approach to things. So if they attack the ball running in the middle, they attack the defense passing in the middle. I mean, it tells me that, again, this is kind of a cat and mouse game that you play with offenses. Yeah, I'm going to stack the middle, but then you are stuck with one-on-one on the outside. So those guys better be good, which for West Virginia so far, Michael Coates, Chambers, Scruggs, been pretty darn good on the outside.
Have you seen the numbers on Coates?
Yeah, he's only been given up 1 catch for 2 yards, only been targeted twice, right?
Yeah. So 1 catch, 3 yards, 1 pass breakup, 80 something snaps and pass defense. He's 1 for 2.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Is he 8 feet tall with like a 9 footer wingspan, or are people just not getting that side in the progression? I have no idea, but those are pretty good numbers right there. Something that'll have my attention. And I just noticed this during just flipping through, watching a little bit of the Fresno State game, and then just kind of remembering it. I didn't have this idea at the time, but as I was flipping through the Missouri game, I paid attention to this. Teams can be a little bit more predictable when they're in certain spots in the field. Like you're going to have inside the 20 red zone offense, and teams kind of shift to something different. If you're coming off your goal line, if you're in your red zone, I guess you're in the opponent's red zone. You're in the minus territory, so you're coming out from inside your 20. You're going to be a bit predictable. So you might run more when you're near your goal line rather than pass it, and you have your own red zone stuff when you get near the end zone for the other team. What do you do between the 40s? That's kind of when you have some fun. You can actually be unpredictable and do some stuff here. Kansas's offense in between the 40s, Chris, something to watch here. 22 carries, 172 yards. No touchdowns, but you're talking 40 and 60-yard touchdowns, so you can forgive that. But that's over 7 yards a carry there. Their like overall run numbers aren't that good, but that's where they're at their best. Is that because the defense has to be a little bit more honest? Are they calling different stuff in there? Are they just better between the 40s? Maybe a little bit of each, maybe not as much of they're better in between the 40s, but they probably have a good plan for what defenses are going to do. And then Daniels, actually just anybody passing inside the actually let's go to Daniels passing inside of the 40s. He's made some mistakes there in the past. He hasn't been perfect across the field. He's 19 for 15 for 239 yards in between the 40s right now. That's why one dimension I think is kind of important here, because they're so crazy with what they do. All their motion, deception, shifts, trading, multiple tight ends out there. It really gives you different thoughts with different personnel and different activity. And if you're in a spot in the field where naturally you are less predictable, that's a little bit dangerous. And that's how a ball goes from midfield to the 20 really quickly. Trouble is they're not very good when they get in the red zone too. So you might want to really excel in between the 40s, because um, they're going to have to do something to make sure that they actually are scoring from the 21 and out. They're not a great red zone team this year. I'm not sure why that is.
Could it be their offensive line? What do you think about the offensive line? Anything you've
Hard to
seen with
tell.
them?
It's hard not to blame it. Like, this is a situation we have here in Morgantown and covering WVU. You're not seeing great running numbers the first couple of games, and you're saying, well, obviously the running back got hurt. Well, maybe they're not getting a running threat of their quarterback. Well, the offensive line's all new. I think it's a little bit of that too, but they get good marks sometimes too. Their first 2 games, they had really good scores, and like just some of the comments from the coaches for largely a first time out. And then if you just listen to the West Virginia coaches this week, kind of like their offensive line, like their defensive line more for sure. We'll get there, but what they try to do sometimes works around your offensive line, but also what they try to do is because their offensive line can accomplish some of that. They go a lot outside left end, just like we talked about with Pitt last week. They go a lot outside right end. I wonder sometimes when it's that obvious, do they have a problem going up the middle? That's a question I have.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple of those guys that have a lot of the snaps, and you wonder about their center. He's got the lowest, I believe it's the lowest run blocking grade of anybody on that offensive line for them, Bryce Foster. Um, he's somebody that I would circle in the run game. The guy I would circle in the pass game, Calvin Clements. Their starting left tackle, I think it was left tackle. He is tied for the Big 12 lead in most pressures allowed out of tackles. A 33.2 pass blocking grade through 3 games. And again, as you noted, this is like playing an FCS team, playing a Fresno State team that they blew out. Like, I mean, that everybody, again, I'm not saying, hey, they got a soft schedule. Everybody, 90% of the country has played FCS Group of Five Power Four, just like Kansas. But 33.2 pass blocking grade. And honestly, I was looking at, hey, when you have those problems, what do? You bring a running back over, kind of hedge over there to try to help him out. Their running backs pass blocking grades 11.5 and 26.7. They are not, you know, they are not going to be able to help out in the passing game, at least trying to block pass rushers. So there are some weaknesses here where I think you could attack in the run game up the middle. You could attack in the pass game on the edges over there at left tackle.
They're going to play 3 tight ends like at once, not in the game.
Yeah.
They're going to play 3 tight ends at once. They've used 4 in every game, and a fifth and at least one more. But they'll have formations. I guess you would call it 13 personnel. You don't say that very often, but and then not only that, but they'll run those guys in routes too. So they're not just there to be blockers. They actually got vertical a couple of times against Missouri because it looks weird, and you're saying, okay, there's 3 tight ends here. They're all on the right side, or there's 2 on the right side. Probably going to go that way. Not really. They're going to pass it sometimes there too. I think that's something you got to keep an eye on. It's not just because it's WVU and tight ends too. So got to keep an eye on that one there. Receivers,
Sure.
they had some good ones for a couple years, like continuity, people who were there. Grimm seems like he should still be catching passes for somebody to either pay him or whatever. It doesn't like to me he's a good player, but he's not in college anymore. Hit the transfer portal, got our transfer slot receiver who's been okay, but doesn't seem like he's 100%. But I'm not sure anybody really scares you there right now either.
No, I mean, Emmanuel Henderson's leading the team with 183 yards receiving, and Cam Pickett's over there as well. Um, they've been targeted and they've done well. Missouri's defense seemed a little bit meh, so it's hard to tell exactly what they are and are not given the opponents that they've faced so far. But those are kind of the main 2 guys, at least as far as receivers go. They got 28 targets between the 2 of them in 3 games.
Pickett's from, I believe, Ball State.
Is that right?
10 catches, 3 touchdowns, but his head coach this week says he hasn't been 100%. Maybe the week off does something good for him there,
So
but
that's the one that's injured. It's Pickett.
he's been injured, yeah. But that was kind of an unknown by the sounds of it, which of course means now he's fully recuperated and he's going to be fine too. They also have Deshaun Hanukkah, who tight end. I'm sorry, but he was at Iowa State for a while. It was a guy that probably didn't get in the field a whole bunch because they had so many good tight ends. I think he missed last year because of injury. Certainly didn't have to sit out as a transfer, but I believe he was hurt and missed all last year. He's already got 3 touchdowns this year. He's a red zone weapon for them. Big guy, can run a little bit too. So they do have some, but just haven't had it happen yet. And again, when they needed to pass last week because the run wasn't working, just didn't seem dynamic. There wasn't anything that scared you. They really had to kind of piece things together and go. And Missouri's got a good defense. A lot of teams peak, and West Virginia do that. I think you'd like your chances of at least being able to compete with the Kansas offense if you're the West Virginia defense there too. Just some individual player stuff here, Chris. You mentioned the secondary. We've been over like just that back end before in the corners there, some offensive line, defensive line matchups. We can, again, how are they going to configure? I don't know. But that second level now is really interesting because you probably feel a whole lot better about Ben Cutter right now than you would have before because he played very well last game. You saw that Reed Carrico can take a lead role for 3 games now. He's been pretty good for them and blitzing a lot. Don't know about Chase Wilson. Hopefully they'll get him back. Ashton Woods, just stays back. If he stays in the game, he's been active and he's been able to do what they want the players in front of him to do. Perfectly? No, but they can actually ask him to do it. That's a good sign. Bandit, Curtis Jones, probably want to wrap up a little bit, be a little bit more accurate with their tackling, but he's out there because he's active and he can make plays. Don't know what they'll do with Siders. Is he defensive end? Is he Bandit? Probably both. And by the way, here comes Jamoy Robinson. Now you got something in that middle. They did not blitz Holstein a lot last week. I think if you watch that game, you're thinking, oh boy, they probably just had him besiege the entire game. Not really. They won that game with their secondary and their defensive line, I think. Probably a different story here today coming up on Saturday, but I just feel like that, not just because they have Robinson, but they know more about their linebackers and even their depth of bandit right now. It adds a little bit of confidence to their attack.
Yeah, absolutely. And they got to be ready for. I'm glad you brought up Hanukkah. because that was somebody I was going to talk about in coverage as well with those guys. I think it'll probably be a combination of some of those linebackers, Fred Perry, maybe one of the other safeties. Again, I don't know if we're going to see the three deep safety look or if Perry's going to be up closer to the line this time. We'll see. But Hanukkah, we're going to single him out because you mentioned three tight ends. There's three tight ends that have gotten at least, what is this math, 15 snaps per game. So are out there for a couple drives at the very least. The other two, Brune and Cure, they are 75% of the time blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Hanukkah, 50-50. Like he is the guy. When he is out there, that's the one you got to worry about going out for a pass. More so, I mean, just as often as he is rushing, but more so than the other guys. So really got to keep an eye on him. He is a threat. Going to be a threat over the middle of the field, especially. That's one of his favorite targets there. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, again, with Reed out, like how often has West Virginia's like second tier guy, like not second tier, second level guys, the linebackers and a little bit of Perry, really been asked to defend the pass so far this season? Like that hasn't been something, like they may be great at it. I don't know. We just haven't seen it. This might be the game where they're tasked with doing that a little more than they're accustomed to so far.
Yeah, not just that, but just the way that, I mean, not having Desmond Reed in the game, and their tight end I don't believe played either, and he's their pass catcher in that intermediate area. And if I'm looking at their position numbers here, let's see. Oh, I don't have them in front of me. I was trying to pull them up there, but just not a lot of action for their tight ends because they haven't been singled out yet. Which is, I mean, we can get to this in a second here too. But I was just watching what Missouri did to Kansas's defense, and their leading receiver, they got him against 8 different defenders during the game. Slot receiver, they moved him inside, outside, linebacker, safety, corner, all that stuff. And there's different ways to do that, but you haven't seen West Virginia getting picked apart by people in coverage and trying to figure out, who do we got to protect? Who is, I don't know, who's a liability? Who's somebody that probably shouldn't be running with people? Cutter is 9 targets, 5 receptions. Wilson, 6 targets, 1 reception, and then nobody else has had a whole lot of targets after that. Carrico, for all he's played, 4 targets. So have they picked on Cutter? I don't know, man. You're talking 9 in 3 games, and he's played a lot, and it hasn't been very noisy. 5 for 9. Wilson, 1 for 6. So those aren't big numbers there too. So you might feel good about that, but you might also, like you said, learn more about that on Saturday. Flip sides here, Chris. See if you're prepared. Are you prepared?
Yeah, I am.
All right, let's talk about this offense. Fewer questions now as far as personnel. Don't think there's any doubt Nico Marchio starts the game and probably finishes it. Now, he may take a powder in between. We'll see, but they certainly feel confident with him in there. Probably going to see a lot of Ty Edwards here, so it's not just who's going to be the running back, and it's not going to be when are you going to see Ty Edwards. You're probably going to have both answers in one there. You still wonder about the overall quality of quarterback play, and then nothing against Ty Edwards, but can he continue to do this? I'm not sure there's a Ty Edwards plane out there that people just weren't in possession of, but fresh, energetic, adrenaline, all that stuff, and he just wore on that Pitt defense during the game. But can he do 25 carries, 55 snaps this week, next week, week after? We're probably going to find out. Do they need more depth at running back? Is the quarterback, again, I hesitate to say rotation because I'm never sure that they were actually rotating organically, but quarterback substitution, let's say, are these all in the pass right now?
I think it's in the past. I think it's going to be very similar to what it was before. I mean, they didn't in none of the 3 games were they quick to pull Marchio. Again, I think even during game one, when you and I did the post game, I was like, that seems very obvious to me that Nico is well ahead of everyone else. That when the game was tight, Rich Rodriguez refused to take out Nico Marchio.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the case. I mean, it took quite a bit. It took a whole first half where West Virginia only scored 7 points. And again, we've kind of talked about it where it wasn't necessarily Nico's fault, but it took an entire first half before they decided to make a move there. Same with Ohio, not getting into the second half before deciding to make a move. So is what it is there. I think that's their guy. This is something that I think fans are going to have to get used to. Maybe Rich Rodriguez is starting to get used to. Everybody, hey, they're going to change their scheme for the quarterback. They're going to change the scheme. We keep saying they're not going to change their scheme. They're not going to change their scheme. It's just not going to change. It's just going to look and feel different. Like you're just not going to have, it's not on the roster. Like the Pat White, Rasheed Marshall bust for a 40-yard run out of nowhere. It's not there. It's just not on the roster. I'm sorry. Like we saw a glimpse of it with Scotty Fox for one play, but I don't know if that's going to be normal. Like, I mean, it was a good looking play. He made a great job, and he's done it. He did it in high school some, but I'm just still not sure it's up to the level that I think fans are kind of expecting and hoping for. So it's just going to be a different offense. It's going to be a little more methodical. Um, it can still be fast. It can still be effective. It just might be one of those things where instead of 5 plays and 80 yards, where the quarterback busts off a 40-yard run, it's going to be more like a 11 play, 75 yards. And it's still quick, still like 3 minutes because you're pushing it, but it just is what it is with this offense this year.
Yeah, let me pin something you said there. I agree. At the moment, you really can't bank on the 60-yard run, 40-yard run by the quarterback. I think it's there in Henderson.
Oh yeah,
Probably there in Wilkins. I'm not putting Wilkins on the field. I'm not putting Max Anderson on the field. I'm probably waiting a while before I put Scotty Fox back on the field, and I don't think Max Brown is that type of player. This goes back to my initial point of the season. Like, do you think Rodriguez can not touch the hot stove there? Like, I just think that he knows it's there. He's seen it. This is a guy who just looks different when he runs, and that's an element to the offense that he can search for it. And again, like, I'm not sure he's even a red zone guy. Like, there's a package for backup quarterbacks sometimes because Markia was so good with the RPO, and he can run tough inside. He can get you from the 20 inside, maybe on one run. I just can again, hot stove. Can he keep his hand from above the flame, or does he know better now and he's going to wait until he can trust it? Um, I don't know. Several practices, several weeks down the road, or up by 21 on the road against Kansas.
is that a prediction?
Moving on. How many times, Chris, over under will they get Cam Vaughn isolated against Trey Lathan in cover two?
Oh god. Do you think that note? Do you think that playbook's still sitting around somewhere in the push card center? Or they're just like, wait, they're in a lot of cover two with this guy, and it don't work.
I feel like there should be an NIL deal for Lathan because every time I see Tedroy McMillan highlights from college, he's running past the middle linebacker. I'm like, that's great. It looks good for him. He should not have that happen twice.
Yeah,
He had a great game against West Virginia. No, no, no. No, no, no. He had a great defensive coordinator.
I was gonna
for
say, I
West
wonder if they got a share of that NFL signing bonus money got sent back to Morgantown somewhere, a little
Virginia.
reroute.
Uh, so Lathan is starting middle linebacker for Kansas. They've hit the portal and made some additions there. He's given up 8 passes and 11 targets in coverage, but they ask him to do stuff because, as he was here, he's athletic. He can run. This is an offensive player with skill in high school that was playing defense in college and trying to figure things out. Sometimes under duress there too. But he I just look at the numbers from the Missouri game: a 300-yard passer, two 100-yard rushers,
Mm-hmm.
and then a double-digit catch 100-yard game for a receiver. That doesn't happen very often. That seems like a complete bust by the defense that had been pretty good up to that point, even against the competition. Just wasn't giving up a whole lot, and it just the offseason stuff, the training camp stuff. A lot of people thought coordinator talent, this defense would be much improved. That was a step back against Missouri.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say there's a lot of things here, and again, this is part of the reason. I mean, I have my questions about West Virginia as a whole, offense, defense, but then I look at Kansas and I look at some of this stuff, especially on their defensive side,
Hmm.
and it's part of the reason why I'm like, how is this a 2 touchdown Vegas line essentially? And I mean, let's see which way we want to work. We'll start in the secondary, I guess. Their top 7 defensive backs, top 7. So they got
Yeah.
5 starters because they got that, what they call it, a hawk or whatever it's called. But top 5, they're 5 starters plus their top 2 defensive backs. Opposing quarterbacks are 45 of 61 when those guys are in coverage. Your defensive backs, we're not talking they're picking on linebackers or they're picking on one guy. This is collectively their entire first and second string secondary, 45 of 61,
Mhm.
74% completion percentage on them. And again, these are defensive backs. These aren't 4-yard outs against the linebacker. This is 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. They're just eating them alive. It's a very discouraging number for the secondary. Question is, does WVU have a passing game to make them pay for it? Is the problem.
So Kevin Coleman, 10 catches, 126 yards, and a touchdown against Kansas. Um, 3 times targeted against the free safety. twice target against the right corner, twice target against Latham, middle linebacker, once target against the weak linebacker, the left linebacker, the safety, and a slot cornerback. Chris, he's a slot receiver. Cam Vaughn is not a slot receiver, but Coleman lined up outside a little bit, a lot in the slot. Cam Vaughn, they're trying to get ways to get him the ball because it's very obvious he's good at what he does. They're running good route combinations with him and Grayson Barnes. They put him in the slot. He's been on the right. He's been on the left. I'm not saying you expect 10, 126 touchdown. Do you expect him to be moved around and try to figure out, all right, there's soft spots somewhere in this defense. Can we let number 4 exploit them?
Yeah, I feel like you have to. I mean, again, if you're, I just kind of mentioned that, hey, there that athlete at quarterback may not be there. There's some pieces that may not be there, but you can still move guys around. You still have one tremendous athlete at the very least in Cam Vaughn. And if you need to find ways to get him the ball and get him in good matchups, you need to do it. And I think Rich Rodriguez he's a smart enough offensive mind that he should be able to figure that out. And I think he will. I think certainly not saving anything. I think he kind of did what he could to obviously win the last week's game and wasn't holding anything back against Ohio. But I think there's still some things that they can do against Kansas and against future opponents to get him the ball more.
What do you think Grayson Barnes does to the pass game now? We talk a lot about tight ends and how they block. He's a tight end for sure. The way he lines up, he has some size. Seems like he's got a point to prove himself as a blocker. Hard to ignore what he's doing as a receiver now. 9 catches, 97 yards, now a touchdown, but he's been more involved when Marquio's been involved.
Yeah. And I mean, Missouri relied on their tight end quite a bit. Norfleet, 7 for 76, 2 TDs, like just kind of ate them alive. So I think Marquio found some comfort, I guess we'll call it, with him, especially late. I mean, a couple of those throws were difficult. That one pass, he made a great read. I believe it was Jed Drenning. Good shout out to Jed for this call, talking about how Cam Vaughn kind of drew the deep safety outside some, and then boom, there goes Grayson Barnes up the middle. And that, like, if I think we saw the replay of that play from the TV angle, which is obviously elevated and looking down. You're like, oh yeah, look, he's wide open down there. Now drop that down to what do we give him, Nico, these days? 6'2"? We get him 6'2"?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give him 6'2". Drop that down to 6'2" off the ground. You're not seeing that wide open. You're seeing a big blob of offensive and defensive linemen. You're seeing a defensive back, and you're just kind of knowing that your tight end is supposed to be there. And you were just throwing it to a space. You were throwing it over a defender and being like, my tight end should be there in the next second or so. So I'm going to throw it there. Same thing for the touchdown grab that ended up tying the game. Like, I don't want to say it was a blind little lob, but it was the decision had to be so quick that there was no chance for him to kind of, check and make sure that he was there, check and make sure. It was like, no, I'm going to trust my tight end. I have to get rid of this ball quickly. Mm-hmm. So I think that was very encouraging for that connection, that both of those passes were completed. And if I were a gambling man, Mike, Grayson Barnes might be a guy I'd keep an eye on moving forward as far as his passing game goes. Because again, that was a great way to finish for them.
Big battle for me in this game, Chris, is going to be third down. West Virginia's third down offense is not good right now. And this has been for 3 games. Even against the FCS team, it wasn't very good. Kansas defense, not really my point here. Missouri was 10 for 19 on third down. They completed 10 of 12 passes on third down. A lot of third down snaps. That might be West Virginia's thing because, as we mentioned, they're not getting a lot of pop plays. So you might find yourself in 2nd and 8 and have a good play. It's still 3rd and 2. So third down, I think, will be important. And then again, you're right. Norfleet, I think, had 4 targets. Coleman had, I think, 4 or 5 targets on third down. And again, going back to Coleman in the slot against the free safety, 3 for 3, 80 yards on third down. So they found ways to get their players the ball, which is again what a good offense does. Everybody's going into Missouri has a good offense there. What's curious though is that 0 for 4 on 3rd and long. So Kansas can do something on third down, and West Virginia wants to stay out of 3rd and longs. But is there a solution, or what are the solutions here to being better on third down apart from maybe just get first downs on 1st and 2nd down?
Killing me. This was good. This was going to be my thing about what are we talking about after the game.
That was mine too. Dang.
Oh no,
I jumped it.
All right. Well, whatever. I mean, because my thing was going to be, this is just, I think you might have said the exact words. I literally write down the battle of third downs, because they're both terrible at it offensively. West Virginia ranks 125th, and right above them, Kansas at 124th in the country in third down conversion percentage. Big problem for West Virginia. As you noted, like against Pitt, Average third and distance to go, 7.2 yards. Against Ohio, 7.3. So they're terrible on first and second down, which is setting up third and long. And then even if you get third and short in those two games, it was like, okay, well, yeah, a lot of teams aren't good if you don't get third and medium or third and short. A lot of teams.
Mhm.
West Virginia was 2 of 10 on third and four or shorter in those two games. So even when they did get what do we want to say? Was that where you get at least 3 or 4 yards on the first and second down to put yourself in a reasonable position, staying ahead of the sticks, if you will, or
Mhm.
just staying at the sticks. They're still not doing it. They're still not converting. So it's a big problem. And again, as you noted, Missouri 10 of 19. Maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe Kansas's terrible defense will give them some hope. Will give them a chance to kind of improve those third down numbers and stay on the field more. And
X
here's
factors, X
yeah,
factors for you I haven't stolen yet.
Kansas can't tackle.
Yeah,
Can I
big
go
one.
there for a second?
Yeah.
Um, 25 missed tackles against Missouri, according to PFF. I,
Big spots too, like third downs, getting outside for 50-yard gains, and that was should have been down in the backfield. Some big moments that game.
I don't think I've seen that number before, like 25 in one game.
Okay.
Like that's hefty. Um, Now, obviously, that's going to contribute to some of the stats I'm about to tell you, but there are 8 players in the entire Big 12 that have 5+ missed tackles. 8. 4 of them come from Kansas.
Is
So
Curtis Jones on that list?
no, but you know who
Okay.
is? Even though
Ray
he has
Lewis.
not played that much.
Oh.
Now I'll have to check and see if Curtis Jones. I left out defensive linemen on this. Sorry, let me clarify that. I did linebackers, corners, safeties. So I don't know. I think they clear. I think they no. They qualified Curtis Jones as an outside linebacker. I think so. He would have been on the list if he was. But Ashton Woods, despite being
He's active though. He's
ejective,
active.
he's
Yeah.
all over the place. He is either missing a tackle or getting ejected. So he was in that 5+ category as well. Fred Perry was not far off. I think he had 4. But again, that's kind of what I've referred to as the Tony Fields effect. Now these guys are not Tony Fields, but Tony Fields was just all over the place, and he got himself quote into position twice as often as a regular linebacker. So he's just going to end up with more missed tackles than everybody else just because he's always around it.
Yeah. Perry might get the Tony Fields like assisted tackle trophy too, where like 2/3 of Tony Fields tackles were assists.
Yeah.
It just feels like that Davis, especially if he's coming from a depth as fast as he runs, like he's gonna be near the ball a lot of times too. Yeah, those are good ones there too. Perry, by the way, they kind of dinged him a little bit for missed tackles against Ohio. I think he went from 4-0 or 3-1, maybe. It was a total of 4 in 2 games, but and his just tackling better. His tackling score was a little bit better in the first and the third game than it was the second game. So again, maybe you have to have one of those games. Ashton Woods, we'll see. Eligible, so he can play because he did get suspended for the remainder of Saturday's game, so he should be able to be on the field, kick off early in the game on defense, something along those lines too. Sounds like you have more tricks up your sleeve here. What else do you have for us?
No, just one thing. I mean, again, hey, we're kind of doing the opposite of the Pitt game where we talked about Pitt like they were, you know, national championship contenders,
Oh
at
yeah.
least defensively. And now we're talking about Kansas and kind of, I don't want to say we're not downplaying. We're telling you the stats. We're telling you, giving you the hard data
Yeah.
here. But you have to give kudos to Kansas's defensive line. They're pretty tough up front. I think that's the strength of their defense. Um, what was his name? Leroy Harris. I was about to say Joey Harris. Leroy Harris, number 2 in the Big 12 in sacks with 3.5. He's getting pressure on the quarterback. Kansas is number 3. I think, yeah, 3 in the Big 12 as a team in sacks total. West Virginia's number 1.
Hmm.
So keep an eye on that because they're kind of getting after it. They forced a fumble every game, I think, or they got 3 of them. I don't know if it was 1 in each game, but they forced 3 fumbles already this season. They're getting after dudes on defense.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to hammer them with the run, though. Like Edwards is one thing, and then Ash is another. And I don't know if we'll see a third one, but again, you might just see the running quarterback in there if you see that defensive line dragging, because I think they want to take that defense apart from the defensive line because it obviously was a factor against Pitt. All the stuff about injuries is funny to laugh at because they were like, oh, well, they probably were gassed. They probably were tired. I imagine that was not all fake. I think a lot of that, and I'm surprised that West Virginia isn't thumping its chest about this. A lot of that, the dramatics, the theatrics, the histrionics, was because West Virginia was running the ball at them and snapping it a lot and just imposing their will. And that just seemed apparent to me. Those final 2 drives, I'm wondering if, like, again, do it over, you probably play tighter, but I also wonder if they had the personnel or the gas to play man to man, to blitz more at that point because West Virginia was just revving up the engine and pressing on forward there too. I just feel like your depth on offense is going to be important here, which leads me to this, Chris. Do you know who leads the team in yards after catch?
For West Virginia, no.
hmm Clay Ash.
Okay.
75 yards after catch. He only has like 57 yards receiving. I don't know how that works, but I think he's caught a couple balls behind the line of scrimmage and he's
Yeah.
made it work. But listen, when he gets those screens or if he gets something that's looping over the defense and he's running downhill, he's a weapon there too. Is he great with the handoff and dashing and finding a hole? Probably not yet. I think he's got that skill, but it's very difficult at this level against a defense like Pitt, probably against a defense like Kansas too. But find ways to get him the ball. He does have something when he has the ball in his hand, the space to work with. Why don't they draw some stuff up there to try to make him work? Because just going back and watching it, he had a couple nice open field moves, but just got his head down and ran forward to the sticks and not an outlet mostly, sometimes quick to him, but it's worked. I wonder if they try to get him the ball more in conventional situations because you're right, the strength of that defensive line, and where the issues tackling behind it. So he's a guy that can make you miss some tackles for sure there too. Anything else on the offensive side against the Kansas defense?
And that's all I got for now.
All right. I
You've
don't think
already
I have.
killed my what are we talking about? Everything, right?
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll just spread myself out here a little bit more thin, and you can have some time to lay back and try to find one. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Because I'm going to talk about turnovers on this one here. I just don't know how this doesn't become a thing for one or both these teams before too long. West Virginia's defense really good at getting the ball back so far. 13th in the country when it comes to turnovers gained. However, 125th when it comes to turnovers lost. Not the best. They've done well when they've been able to keep teams out of the end zone. Mentioned the 3 interceptions several times um, against Ohio, right? But they did nothing with it for their offense. So how has this happened? How have they gotten the ball so often and done little with it? They have 0 points off turnovers, Chris. All these extra possessions haven't done anything with it. They could have blown either game open with turnovers and done something with it. Haven't. Kansas, middle of the pack, 55, 57, turnovers gained, turnovers lost. They've allowed no points off turnovers. What kind of gets me here is that Kansas has had some balls in danger that haven't been intercepted, put the ball on the ground a couple times, but has recovered it. West Virginia has recovered 4 of the 11 fumbles by either itself or the other team in the game, 2 each way. So the other team is recovering a lot of fumbles, either that West Virginia commits on its offense or with its defense. Just the ball is not bouncing for West Virginia. And yet they've gotten a lot of extra possessions. They just haven't done anything for it. That's a corner they have to turn offensively. A lot of discussion about how the defense is doing its job with yardage, sacks, getting off the field, not allowing points. The turnovers are the big one here, right? I don't think a lot of people talked about that. Giving the offense opportunities to get back into a game, to put a game away. Haven't been able to do it. That's going to have to change sooner or later. Otherwise, it becomes something that you're not going to be able to ignore anymore. Turnovers after this one way or the other. What team does something, what team gives up points off of that. I don't know how that's not a separator.
Real quick on yours. What do you think of Rich Rodriguez's answer to that question? He was asked about it at his press conference, and he was like, "What's the difference between scoring off of?" He kind of played it up, like downplayed it. Like, what's the difference between scoring points off of a turnover and scoring points after forcing a punt? What's the difference?
Sometimes 40 or 50 yards at field position, sometimes 2 or 3 minutes off the clock.
Momentum. I don't know. I just he was
Kansas,
very just like, yeah, I don't think anything of it. And I was like,
Kansas
that's
isn't in that
surprising.
game. Kansas isn't in that game last week unless they get that scoop and score in the first quarter. It puts them up 21-6, but it should have been 14-6, and Missouri had figured some stuff out, missed an extra point. Actually, an extra point blocked. And look like they were moving, and all of a sudden it's going the other way. It's 21-6 instead of tied. It matters. I sometimes think that coaches are weird about how they deal with things, and it's not a problem if you don't address it or if you don't admit it. They admit it, and that seems like one of those things sometimes. Because again, if you say, yeah, we got to force more turnovers, the inevitable question from Knucklehead Media is, how do you force more turnovers, coach? They work on that every day. Every day. Like you've seen it. We've shown videos of it, pictures of it. They have these ball security drills, which is good for the offense, but also the defense. They don't not work on it. But like when you're poking the ball out as much as West Virginia is, I think they have forced 6 fumbles and recovered 2. That's pretty good. But just haven't been able to do anything with it when they actually get back possession.
All right. Since you stole my third down thing, I'm going to talk about field position here because I think it's going to be important. I think both teams are going to kind of, I don't want to say struggle offensively, but I like West Virginia's defense against Kansas's offense, and I'm not sure West Virginia's offense has the spark to really kind of overwhelm Kansas's defense either. So I think this could be a little bit of a more lower scoring game than some people might be expecting. And you look at something like net field position, from CUFB graphs, and West Virginia 115th out of 136. Now, some of that's just not converting on third down. Some of that's shorter punts and better returns from other teams. Kansas, number 18 in the country.
Mm.
So it's only a handful of yards. This is the difference of like 7 to 10 yards, basically. But if you look at the data, the hard data over, thousands and thousands of games and thousands of drives, just the difference of 7 to 10 yards starting field position like it's pretty dramatic. Like it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's pretty dramatic in the success rate that you have on that drive, the points that you average per drive in that situation. So if this is a lower scoring game, if this is something like 24-20, then I think that 7 to 10 yards on special teams is going to be important. We're going to talk about a couple of those things. Like again, it's kind of tied into your turnovers because that starting field position will be related to that, but special teams as well.
Games on FS1, Chris. Does that mean anything to you?
Nothing.
Lance Leipold, 3-10 on FS1.
Oh, you found something to trump the post open week data. I like it.
Should have opened with that one, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Can we go over and start again?
Ah.
Can't start again. All right. So I'll see if I can find more of the TV matchups in the future because all these games are on TV now. But man, FS1 just doesn't like Lance Leipold for some reason. We'll see if that changes here. Plenty coming up on the website. Plenty of previews, angles, both sides. You have the Q&A with fog.net coming up?
Andrew does. Andrew's handling the Q&A. That should be up. What is this? This is posting Thursday morning. It should be up Thursday afternoon, I think.
So he'll have that. He'll have his 3 key matchups. I'll have my fresh set. Already some players featured this week. The big set on the offense here, some evaluation keys from different levels. West Virginia FCS Division II group of 5 players all up and down the roster, producing at different frequencies so far. I don't know, Chris, anything else going on with your side? Are you doing any work for the website this week?
No, I don't think so. Okay. There's a lot of recruiting stories up.
Yeah.
Did the VIPO mailbag answer the rest of the questions that went up Wednesday morning? Quick response from the first reply in the thread, because did you see the pun that he had about, quote, untying Edwards? UNTYE. You untie when they untie Edwards.
I feel like there should be like a bat signal when someone uses a pun like that in the website, and I was not informed. No one gave me a notification.
My answer was like, this isn't Mike's mailbag. I'm not answering that. Just not. I refuse. So that's up there. That's pretty long read. Set aside a few minutes for that. Look for several recruiting stories. Got it up with some baseball commits. I know it's football season, but again, we talked about last weekend against the Backyard Brawl. That was a visit weekend for everybody, and baseball took full advantage of that. They've up to, as of the time of this recording, 4 verbal commitments from the weekend, potentially a couple more to come. So keep an eye on that recruiting story with a former basketball player turned defensive lineman that got an offer from West Virginia and is a 2026 target. Interesting name there. Interesting story. So look out.
Can we do something really quick on baseball?
Go.
One, their team is tremendous when it comes to like community stuff. We've been over like the NIL things, and they have their get together at a bar in Morgantown every Monday, and like a lot of inside baseball stuff that like stuff I don't know about that people who go to these things tell me about because they learn. So they're very good about stuff like that. Players, I'm not saying they tailgate, but they go to the tailgates and they make friends, and they just kind of like do goodwill stuff. And I must have had a handful of people on Sunday and Monday say, "Hey, I'm going to the baseball game Friday." I'm like, "There's no baseball game." I forgot they have the fall baseball, and it's every Friday for the next couple of weeks into October, where it's intra-squad games. And the one last week apparently was really good. Like I don't know how they put the teams up, but the one team shut out the other team in like a 6 or 7 inning game with great pitching, and it's all these new people, new pitchers on the team that looked really good. And everybody kind of was talking about that in the parking lots on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and now you have a whole batch of people coming to the games. Now the thing is that there's no football game here, so there might be fewer people in town, but there's fewer things to do in town without a football game. So Friday, intra-squad scrimmage, free attendance, 6 p.m., and I can't find the tweet. They might have taken it down, but the like invitation tweet from either the baseball
bring a cooler.
Bring a cooler. If you put black cherry White Claw in that cooler, they should kick you out. Because this is your one time around the blackberry White Claw prohibition, right? That's all they have in cans over there. So if you complain about that, bring a mango, bring a lime, bring a tangerine, whatever you want to do. But I think I'm assuming you could have whatever you want in the cooler, correct? That's by saying less, they say more.
Correct. Is that I didn't know if we've ever talked about the black cherry thing, because my wife would get the variety pack from Costco,
Mhm.
And then eventually, like my garage fridge was just filled with black cherry because whatever it is, like a 12 pack, 18 pack, and there's like three of every flavor or something. She hates black cherry. So our fridge is just filled with black cherry White Claw. So if anybody likes black cherry, come on over to the house. You can have it all of
It's
it.
like socks in the dryer. Where do the socks in the dryer go? We don't know. Where do the black cherries in Chris's refrigerator go? Milan Pushkar Stadium.
There you go.
Sorry, not Milan Pushkar Stadium. Ken Kendrick Stadium,
Yeah,
football
excuse
arena.
me.
That was a social media cut, and I screwed it up completely. I don't know if I can fix that one there. But anyways,
Uh,
go Friday. Free attendance. Bring a cooler. Watch the future stars of the spring and summer play in the fall. Least you can do for them because they're out there trying to do things. And I'm not on the payroll yet, so we'll try to figure that out sometime soon. Anything else, Chris?
no, that's it.
We'll wrap it up here. Until next time, I am Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you then.